Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today we bring you some news. Queen Catherine emotional first coronation speech after King Charles' sudden passing sent shockwaves, a queen in determination, a nation in grief. People all across the globe were shocked and silent when Queen Catherine went out onto the balcony of Buckingham Palace. Her eyes sparkled as she wore a crown that seemed weighty and unexpected. It was a moment that would go down in history, one that mixed deep sadness with calm determination. King Charles bravely battled off a torrent of ailments that hit him hard. But in the end, his tragic death left a country in grief and altered his family forever. Queen Catherine's first coronation speech, which was steady yet full of passion, set up a media frenzy that had never been witnessed before. She spoke about the past, about loss, and about the strong ties that would keep the monarchy going. And then the words that went around the world, "Princess Anne will be the right hand and support for our new reign." What did this signify for the royal family's future? How had Charles's previous fights changed this important moment? Stay with us as we go into more detail about the speech, the emotions, the victories, and the road ahead. The beginning of King Charles's reign was full of hope, with a vision of a contemporary monarchy based on service and sustainability. But beneath the public face, a number of health problems were becoming worse, like clouds accumulating. At first, he only complained about being tired from his busy schedule, but things became a lot worse in early 2024 when a regular operation for an enlarged prostate showed something far worse, an unknown kind of cancer. The palace gave hints of his strength, showing how he kept doing his responsibilities while getting treatment and taking strength from his family and the country. But as 2025 began, more problems came up, side effects from continued treatments, short hospital stays, and rumors of new illnesses that were made worse by his past struggles with COVID and old sports injuries from his polo days. He attempted to cling on and go through public events with the same drive. People who know him say he told close aides about his regrets, which weren't simply personal ones, like missing time with his grandkids, but also bigger ones like not finishing environmental projects and making up with family members. No matter what he did, the sicknesses came together and abruptly took over his body in a manner that no one expected. He died quickly on a calm spring morning, leaving the British people in shock and the world thinking about a monarch who gave everything till the end. Queen Catherine, who was then the Princess of Wales, was propelled into the limelight. Her rise to power was a mix of sadness and quick need. King Charles's last battles. In the last several months of his life, King Charles's health problems became worse. It was a never-ending fight that took place behind palace doors. When he was diagnosed with cancer in early 2024, he started a long and difficult course of treatments, including chemotherapy and experimental medications that were meant to delay the disease's spread. Even though it was hard for his physique, he was still determined to do his royal responsibilities. Even though he was getting worse, he still made public appearances. These included shorter engagements, more use of a cane, and sometimes cancellations due to fatigue. The palace kept up a carefully crafted story of resilience, stressing his unwavering commitment to service. Charles's health had become a lot worse by the middle of 2024. His therapies caused problems that weakened his immune system, making him more likely to have infections that forced him to go to the hospital many times. At state occasions, he used to be quite authoritative, but now he is quieter, his voice is softer, and his gestures are more difficult. But he wouldn't step back completely. He insisted on being in the public eye as a member of the monarchy. People who were close to him said that he was emotionally drained, not only because he was in pain, but also because he knew that time was running out. He told close advisors about projects that weren't done yet, including his long-held ideal of a sustainable monarchy, plans to fight climate change, and attempts to mend broken family ties. There was a gentle sense of urgency in the last weeks of his life. He spent more time at Highgrove House, his favorite spot to get away from it all, where he found peace in nature, which had always made him feel better. His talks with his kids became more thoughtful, full of wise words and gentle farewells. Queen Catherine, who had always been there for him, stayed at his side, balancing her own mounting duties with the emotional toll of seeing her husband fight a war they both knew he couldn't win. The palace made a sad announcement of his death on the morning of his death. This confirmed what many had dreaded, but few had anticipated so quickly. People all around the country were sad not only because they lost a monarch, but also because an era had come to an end. Flags were flown at half-mast, global leaders sent their condolences, and the streets of London were flooded with flowers and words of sympathy. Charles's vision of modernity had once defined the monarchy, but now it was at a crossroads. Queen Catherine's decisions in the days to come would determine the destiny of the monarchy, getting ready for a coronation in uncertain times. Queen Catherine's preparations for her coronation took place at a time of national sorrow and the heavy burden of taking on a job she hadn't expected to have to do so soon. The change from Princess of Wales to Queen Consort was more than just a sign. It was a change that needed a lot of thought preparation and a careful balance between respecting the past and defining the future. The palace worked quickly to plan the hastened coronation ceremony when King Charles died. This ritual was rooted in centuries of history, but also had a sense of urgency. As planners labored to add features that would honor the late Queen, while also making sure the service represented the new age under Queen Catherine's rule, Westminster Abbey, the historic site of royal coronations, became a swarm of activity. Floral displays from Highgrove Gardens, Charles's favorite place to relax, were used to decorate the abbey. This showed how much he loved nature and how much he cared about the environment throughout his life. The music at the coronation was carefully chosen to include both classic hymns and new pieces that fit with Charles's idea of a monarchy that was both anchored in the past and moving forward. The preparations were hard for Queen Catherine, both logistically and emotionally. She was known for being calm under pressure, so she threw herself into rehearsals using her years of public service to make sure that every element of the event went off without a hitch. Friends of the family said that she would stay up late reading historical materials and looking for ideas in earlier coronations. She was especially struck by the 1953 coronation broadcast of Queen Elizabeth II, in which the late Queen spoke about religion and solidarity. Catherine wanted her own statement to say the same thing, but in a more personal way, one that recognized how quickly things had changed while still renewing her dedication to the country. There has never been so much media attention on a coronation before. News organizations from the BBC to foreign networks camped outside Buckingham Palace and reported on every little thing that went into getting ready. Analysts guessed what the Queen's speech would be like by looking at every official statement for clues about how she would reconcile her role as a leader with her grief. Some people thought she would give a sad speech, while others thought she would talk about her plans for the future of the monarchy. There was a lot of talk on social media about the event, with hashtags like Catherine Coronation trending hours before it started. The Queen's resolve to make the coronation not simply a ceremonial change of power, but also a time of healing for the country, was at the center of the preparations. She labored diligently with her aides to write a speech that would emotionally touch the British people. It was a message of strength, solidarity, and optimism. As the day got closer, the palace stayed quiet about the specific phrasing, which made everyone even more curious. There was one thing for sure: Queen Catherine was eager to take on her new position as a leader and queen, steering the country through a period of great upheaval, a coronation full of tradition and feeling. The day of the coronation was bright and sunny, and the streets of London were full with people waving flags and Union Jacks, their excitement apparent. Queen Catherine came at Buckingham Palace on the famous Gold State carriage, which is an homage to centuries of royal history. Her dress was a beautiful mix of style and meaning. The elaborate needlework on her gown, which was inspired by King Charles's love of nature, paid tribute to his heritage while also symbolizing the start of a new era. As she walked up the stairs of the palace, the weight of history descended on her shoulders, but she kept her cool, which showed how strong she had been on her trip thus far. The sounds of old ceremonies echoed around Westminster Abbey. The coronation ritual went in the same order as always: the anointing, the crowning, and the vows taken before God and country. Each moment was heavy with the weight of generations, drawing on examples from the past, including King George VI's impassioned speech in 1937 that calmed a country on the verge of war. Catherine's ceremony was quite traditional, but it also included some contemporary twists. The event included readings by environmental poets that Charles had liked as a way to honor his lifetime commitment to sustainability. The abbey was full with important people, clerics, and members of the royal family. They all stood in quiet as the archbishop put the crown on her head. Everyone held their breath as she clutched the scepter. A new age had officially started. Tears fell quietly behind the scenes. Catherine murmured to King Consort William, "He would have been so proud." Her voice was firm, but her eyes were shining. The words were soft, but they were full of the passion that made the occasion so special. Hymns filled the abbey, and their melodies mixed with the archbishop's somber benediction, reminding everyone there of the monarchy's long devotion to the country. The media got every angle, and drones flew above. Commentators noted how calm Catherine was, which reminded them of her early talks, when she learned how to speak with honesty and elegance. The Queen got ready for her balcony appearance, which would set the tone for her rule when the ceremony was over. People all across the globe were waiting for her to speak, not knowing that the emotional substance of her comments would shortly shake apart the royal family and beyond. A speech that spoke to many generations. The world held its breath as Queen Catherine came out onto the balcony of Buckingham Palace with her family at her side. The huge throng below, which went beyond the royal gates, grew silent, and you could feel their excitement. The Queen's voice resonated throughout the city and beyond, and the sun shone down on the ancient facade, giving it a golden glow. Her words were carefully selected to commemorate the past and set the tone for the future. She started with a moving homage to King Charles. Her voice was calm but full of feeling as she spoke of his fights not only with sickness, but also with the things that were most important to him. "I stand here today humbled by the legacy of a man who fought tirelessly for our planet, our people, and our family." She said her comments full of personal anguish and a larger look at how Charles affected the world. She spoke about how determined he was to deal with his problems with elegance, never wanting to make his loved ones worry. Even though he got sick all of a sudden with a lot of different things, he stayed strong and didn't want to worry us. His regrets, which he didn't say but felt sincerely, urge us all to enjoy every moment. The gathering, many of whom had grieved the king's death, listened closely, taking in the raw honesty in her voice, which was different from the rehearsed formality that is usually anticipated of royal speeches. Then came the remark that shocked the monarchy and the world: "Princess Anne, my beloved aunt, will be the right hand and support for our new reign." This was a declaration of partnership and an acknowledgement of Anne's long-standing position as the monarchy's loyal supporter. News sites were full of commentary, with some hailing it a brilliant move for togetherness, and others wondering how it would have helped fix family problems. Catherine's decision to officially raise Anne's status wasn't just a symbolic gesture. It was a deliberate move that showed the Queen was committed to stability and continuity. She kept weaving in ideas of service and endurance, relying on Charles's idea of a contemporary monarchy. She spoke about how he cared about the environment, how he pushed for communication across religions, and how he quietly worked to make the monarchy more contemporary. His legacy is not just one of duty, but of action, she added in a strong yet loving voice. And under my reign, we will carry that vision forward, making sure that his dreams for a greener, kinder world are not forgotten. Her comments were similar to those of Queen Elizabeth II when she was crowned in 1953, when she promised to serve the country for the rest of her life. Catherine's speech paid tribute to that tradition, while also making it very clear that it was hers. The personal element of her statement was what made it so moving. She spoke of close family times and how Charles's jokes made even the worst days better. She spoke about how wise he was, how dedicated he was to his causes, and how strong he had been throughout his reign. As she ended with a plea for national reconciliation, the crowd went wild, and the media was in a frenzy. The world had seen more than just a coronation. They had seen a queen speak from the heart, which set the tone for a reign that would be both traditional and new. Princess Anne, the strongest supporter of the crown. Princess Anne has always been a loyal member of the royal family, always there for the monarchy's successes and failures. People call her the hardest-working royal, since she has always done more public appearances than her peers. She has helped her brother King Charles with both personal and political problems. Her journal, which included more than 200 entries in the last several years, showed that she was always working for charities, serving in the military, and keeping royal traditions alive. But her real power was felt most strongly behind closed doors. Anne became Charles's confidant as he dealt with his health problems, giving him gentle advice and always being there for him. People who know the family say that the siblings spoke late at night about succession sustainability and the changing role of the monarchy. Now that Queen Catherine has publicly backed Anne, her position has become even more important. She is now a driving force for the new rule. The Queen's statement that Princess Anne would be her right hand and support throughout her reign was not only a sign of commitment to her family, it was also a smart way to show that Anne had been doing royal duties for decades and could handle them with elegance and practicality. Anne's military background, her job as Admiral of the Royal Navy, and her strong ties to the military gave her an aura of authority that went well with Catherine's more contemporary, caring attitude. She was a great counsel in times of crisis because she was no-nonsense and had a strong sense of responsibility. This was clear when Charles was diagnosed with cancer in 2024, when Anne discreetly stepped up, taking on more work and giving her brother confidential advice while he battled his illness. The speech during the coronation was more than simply an homage to Charles's legacy. It was also a promise of unity and continuance. Queen Catherine's public support for Anne's position marked the start of a new age of cooperation, one in which the old and the new could live side by side. The media frenzy that followed was quick, and commentators called Anne the new power behind the throne. But for many who had been following the royal family for a long time, this acknowledgement was long deserved. Anne standing next to Catherine on the balcony of Buckingham Palace was a visible reminder of how solid the monarchy is. It showed that even when things are changing a lot, the family's foundation remains strong. sadness and strength within palace walls. The royal family was dealing with the deep sadness of losing King Charles, even though the coronation was beautiful and there was a lot of media attention on Queen Catherine's speech. His children, grandkids, and close relatives mourned him in secret in the days after his death away from the public view. Queen Catherine, who was always a dedicated mother, had to deal with a lot of new obligations while also meeting the emotional needs of her children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Sources close to the family said that she got strength from her relationship with King Consort William. Their partnership was similar to the deep bond she had talked about in previous speeches, such as her 2023 World Mental Health Day speech, where she talked about how important it is to be vulnerable and connect with others emotionally. Charles's death came as a shock to the family since it happened so quickly because of the combination of his ailments. There had been no last words or final goodbye, just a silent goodbye beside the bedside. Instead, the royal family was thrown into a flurry of ceremonial preparations, which meant they had to deal with their grief in public while absorbing their loss in private. Princess Anne, always a strong person, helped make this change easier. She had been in the royal family for decades and was ready for times of trouble. She helped Queen Catherine emotionally and logistically. Family members remembered how Anne would tell funny stories about Charles at private meals, which helped lighten the mood and remind them of the king's humor and intelligence. The Queen's coronation speech was a way for her to let out her feelings and commemorate Charles's heritage at the same time. What she said about Princess Anne wasn't simply a smart move to protect the monarchy's future. It was also a heartfelt homage to her aunt who had been like a mother to her since she got married. The media caught little instances of this feeling such when Catherine looked at Anne from the balcony of Buckingham Palace. This simple gesture spoke a lot about how close they were. The royal family went on taking with them the lessons of the past. They had to deal with their own grief while also guiding a country that was changing. Writing a speech that spoke to the whole country. Queen Catherine's coronation speech was not an off-the-cuff event. It was the result of a lot of planning, combining her changing public image with genuine emotion. Catherine has always been recognized for her warm, relatable, and emotionally deep way of communicating. These attributes have grown a lot over the years. She said that she was nervous when she gave formal speeches early in her public life and frequently relied on meticulously prepared notes to make sure she was clear and accurate. Yet with hard work, including taking elocution classes to improve her pronunciation, she became a confident speaker whose voice now has a professional yet friendly tone. Speech specialists have noticed this change and how her accent has naturally changed to sound even more polished, making analogies to the famous communicators in the royal family. This foundation was very important in getting ready for the coronation speech. Catherine threw herself into a tough process that included writing many drafts to make sure that every word had meaning for both her and the country. Her personal style, which has been clear in earlier milestones, came through in how she spoke with real empathy. Catherine's coronation speech was a mix of vulnerability and encouragement that really resonated with people, much like her 2017 speech at the opening of the Out of the Blue Art show, when she spoke about how creativity can help people recover from mental illness. Advisors were very important, and they used examples from history, such Queen Elizabeth II's famous coronation broadcast in 1953, which focused on themes of responsibility, gratitude, and a vision for the future. Catherine's speech included certain parts that were similar to the speech which respected history, while also making it her own by adjusting to current tastes. She added personal touches, such exact passages from King Charles's writings on how to take care of the environment which she got from his works like Harmony. She also included personal stories from when she helped him with his treatments, remembering quiet family times when his wisdom shined through, even though he was in agony. These things weren't just for show. They made the monarchy more relatable and addressed the regrets Charles had left behind by promising to keep working on his causes. Catherine's voice changed as she practiced showing how much she had changed since she first started. Her voice, which used to be unsure now, had the steady assurance of a leader eager to move the country forward. A new look at monarchy. The way forward. The monarchy is now in unknown terrain, influenced by the legacy of King Charles and the ambition of its new queen. The echoes of Queen Catherine's coronation speech are fading into history. His struggles with sickness are a powerful reminder of how fragile we are as humans, and they have led to palace projects that go beyond normal royal responsibilities. One of the most exciting things that will happen is that Catherine's early years' work will grow, especially her main campaign that started in 2023 and focuses on how important the first 5 years of a child's existence are for their mental and physical health. The Royal Foundation's Center for Early Childhood supports this project, which aims to change how people think about parenting and child development via research and raising awareness. This might lead to new policies that are very helpful for parents and children. The Queen's own experience as a mother guides her work, keeping her reign closely tied to the daily problems of families throughout the country. Princess Anne's higher position as the right hand and support for the new reign maintains a balance between old and new. Her decades of service, which included being president of the British Olympic Association and Save the Children, make her a stabilizing factor in the monarchy's changing environment. Her years of experience with multinational projects and her no-nonsense style will be very helpful in leading new projects. The Queen's perspective, which was shaped by Charles's work for the environment, will continue to fight for sustainability. Anne will play a big role in moving forward initiatives that are in line with his legacy. The monarchy will continue to lead the way in the fight against climate change, from encouraging renewable energy to protecting wildlife. The media frenzy over the coronation has changed from astonishment to hope, and people seem to be more and more approving of Catherine's friendly style of leadership. Recent surveys show that more than 70% of people support her rule. Many people praise her for caring about topics that affect people such as maternal mental health and early childhood development. Her ability to combine personal stories with national policy has established a new standard for how royals talk to the public, making sure that the monarchy stays relevant in a world that is always evolving. Catherine's reign will be one of strength, growth, and a strong dedication to service as she moves into this new chapter. These are the attributes that will shape the monarchy for decades to come. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.